The 5-zone training model that is on your watch right now is probably wrong. In fact, for most people, it's actively sabotaging your fitness by telling you a story about your body that's, at best, only half true. But I still use it for every single one of my sessions. Stick around because I'm going to show you how to turn this flawed system into your secret weapon for getting faster. You finish what you felt like a good run. You look down at your watch and it gives you the soul-crushing verdict, unproductive. Or maybe you just noticed that almost all of your easy training time is actually being logged as tempo or threshold. If you ever felt like you're constantly fighting with your heart rate zones, you're not alone. It's not your fault, it's the model that's broken. I've been on both sides of that battle and it's so frustrating. And you probably have too. Your watch gives you your scientifically calculated zone 2 heart rate, and on a good day, it feels ridiculously slow. You probably thought, it can't be right as you're barely moving. So you ignore it and you push into what felt like a productive effort, only to see you'd spent the entire run in zone 3. Then, on a hot or stressful day, the opposite happens. Trying to keep your heart rate down in zone 2 means just shuffling along. It's completely demoralizing and feels pointless. Either way, you're constantly second guessing your body or your watch and ending up in a training zone middle ground that you probably know as the grey zone. I personally look back at it now and call it the zone of stupidity. And the reason your zones feel wrong is because they probably are wrong. The default 5-zone model on your watch is built on a house of cards. Here's what your device does. First of all, it estimates your upper threshold or your anaerobic threshold. To do this, it might use an age formula, or maybe it has you do a guided test, but it's only looking to gather one of your 2 crucial metabolic data points. And this is the critical flaw. It uses a generic one-size-fits-all percentage to work backwards to calculate all of your other zones. It just assumes your lower threshold or your aerobic threshold, which is sort of the top of your easy zone, and it thinks it's exactly 80% of your upper threshold, for example. But is it really? Now, for a highly trained athlete, it might be 85 to 90%. Or for someone just starting, it might be as low as 70 to 75%. And that generic formula doesn't know you. It doesn't know your unique physiology. And this is why your zone 2 is probably wrong. You're training with seemingly personalized zones that are actually based on a population average. You're still flying blind and likely stuck in that frustrating grey zone without even knowing it. Now, to understand this fully, we need to talk about what is actually happening inside your body. Sports science shows that your body has 2 key metabolic tipping points. Your aerobic threshold, which is your lactate threshold 1 or LT1, and your anaerobic threshold, which is your lactate threshold 2 or LT2. Now, these 2 points create 3 real zones. Zone 1 is below LT1. This is your true, easy, fat-burning zone. You can go for hours here. This is where you go to build your endurance engine. Zone 2, this is the space between the 2 zones. This is the zone for boosting your lactate buffering ability. And Zone 3, this is above your LT2. And this is the hard stuff. It's all-out endurance intensity that triggers gains like boosting your VO2 max. Now, for comparison, Zone 1 in this model is the equivalent to Zones 1 and 2 in the traditional 5 zones. Zone 2 in this model is the same as Zones 3 and 4, and Zone 3 here is Zone 5, the top zone in the 5-zone model. Now, you've probably heard of the 80-20 rule. This makes it far simpler. Spend 80% of your time in that easy Zone 1 and 20% in the other 2 zones, depending on your event, fitness, and specific goals. So, if there are really only 3 distinct physiological zones, why do our watches and apps all give us 5? And this is the central flaw. It's because the terminology that goes with 5 zones have become normalized. They are used by coaches and athletes around the world, myself included, to offer a word for your target effort. Now, while having a more granular breakdown can help your training specificity, your zones on training apps are built on a foundation of sand. It's not personalized, it's estimated. It's typically a guess of where one of your lactate thresholds lie, and it uses a generalized percentage model to work backwards, as I mentioned earlier. And that is why trying to follow it often leads you right back into that grey zone trap. So, on all that, how do we fix it? How do we make the 5-zone model work? Well, we stop guessing and we start testing, and that means both zones. We need to anchor our zones to our actual physiology. While it's not completely perfect, you don't need an expensive lab test to do it, just a chest-based heart rate monitor. To find your LT1 or your aerobic threshold, there are a couple of methods that I've used in the past. Now I'm going to explain them in terms of running, but you can also use the same methods for cycling too. First of all, the talk test. Your ability to talk comfortably whilst exercising is a very good gauge for your aerobic threshold. If you can say a phrase of 30 to 40 words comfortably, like I am now and you would at rest, this is a very accurate sign that you are below your LT1. Check your heart rate and then increase the pace a little bit. Try this every 4 minutes, and at the end of each 4 minutes, after you've increased the pace, check your heart rate again. Do this until you cannot say the phrase again comfortably. The highest heart rate you have while speaking comfortably will be your LT1. For your LT2, or your anaerobic threshold, you can do it with a simple but tough test. Firstly, warm up for 15 minutes, and then run for 30 minutes at the hardest, most consistent effort you can sustain. Now think of it like a solo 10k race. After the first 10 minutes of that effort, hit the lap button on your watch. The average heart rate from those last 20 minutes is going to be your LT2 or your anaerobic. Now both of these threshold numbers are key. They are your personal physiological fingerprint. Once you have your 2 threshold heart rates, you plug those numbers into your watch or training app and set your 5 zones based on percentage of lactate threshold heart rate, which is going to be your anaerobic threshold. You might have to manually adjust the top of your zone 2 to your aerobic threshold, and then boom, they are your zones. Your 80% easy training now perfectly maps into your new zone 1 and 2, and your 20% hard training maps into your new zone 4 and 5. And zone 3, that becomes your tempo zone. You don't live there, but you can visit the high end of it with purpose for specific longer interval workouts. We've now transformed the flawed model into a precise, personalized tool. So go out, do both threshold tests. Go into your device or TrainingPeaks settings and update your heart rate zones to be based on your lactate threshold heart rates, both of them. This one change will revolutionize how you train and how much you get out of it. I would love to know if you have any of your own ways to test these thresholds. Please drop it in the comments below. I love to hear all the different ways you can use to find your aerobic and anaerobic thresholds. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like so we can share it around to more people. And if you like this content, please consider subscribing as we put out a new video every 2 weeks. Thank you, go out, be efficient.